Alright fellas, here we are back in Pokemon Masters to take a look here at the triple feature variety Pokefair Scout that's going to be dropping tomorrow for Eevee Day. So this banner here is again a triple feature Scout, which means it's going to have, I believe, 1.5% rates for each character. Pretty sure it still works like that for variety Scouts. I hope so. Oh boy. Oh man. Whatever. Anyway, so, of course, this is going to be featuring Leafeon, Glaceon, and Sylveon with Hilda, Hilbert, and Calem. Yes, nice. Of course, this is pretty typical for what we get every year. Last year, we did Geely and Celine. This year, these characters, I mean, I would say these characters have still similar quality to what we've gotten in years past, and at least how they play. I do think that they are, in their own right, pretty useful in some way. But, of course, like, how many gems to get them and all that stuff, you know, there you're kind of you're not having too much fun. We'll say that, right? I honestly think like the best of the bunch is probably Hilda, simply because she's got synthesis for healing, grassy glide, and of course no gauge consumption, and the fact that if you pair her up with some potential partners like grassy trendsetters, all of that stuff, she's gonna get good enhancement and again be able to not consume any gauge and work pretty well under that stuff, especially if it's an extender and you want to use her as your main nuker, which he's got green thumb. It works pretty well. Though honestly, I really like Hilbert's kit. Glaceon bias, yes, but he's got a lot of debuffs. For one, he's got speed debuffs here, special attack debuffs here, stupefying strike, and noxious hit. That's a lot of debuffs. I love that. Ice Wind can do some decent damage. Powder Snow if you want to have gauge management. Toxic is poison damage. It can be something. But also, I mean, he's got a pretty good nuke with special attack debuffs here and devastation here. So, same nuke, right? Good offensive stat. Really good offensive stat. Like 500 plus is pretty good. And wow, that's very good special defense stat actually. Holy crap. Cool. And also the fact that he sets Ice Zone every sync move, which can be extended by Eriott. That is some good partnership, honestly. Very good partnership, especially when he's able to recover ally HP with Ice Zone. Anyway, so I'm just talking bias here. The way I want to look at these characters is mostly with dupes invested, simply because I think that these characters get a lot of their good utility with dupes, though I guess I will try and cover them a little bit without them. Like, for example, Hilbert without dupes. So he's still got the speed debuffs and the special attack debuffs as well. He's got Team Crit Immunity and Ice Zone, which is, of course, preventing Vigilance from having to be run. That can be decent utility. Again, setting Ice Zone every sync move. His sync move is not super valuable to use outside of, like, Legendary Gauntlet, maybe one, and obviously one instance in a lot of fights is pretty good because of the support EX roll. So honestly, his sync move is not too bad, simply because you do get the support EX, and again, you are extending that. You're getting that Ice Zone, which if you have him partnered up with Eriott in any content where you're going to be trying to just like maximize your team strength, then that's really, really good. You're getting that extended Ice Zone on top of the support EX, especially when you want to run Eriott as well for her own support EX. Anyway, if you give her the EX roll, that's pretty good, honestly. So Calem's 1 out of 5 utility is pretty solid. Not to mention he's got Sync Countdown, which pairs well with Cena if you want to run them together for double Glaceon stuff, or just literally any other Sync Accelerating character. Hello, Champion Red or something. Special defense up for himself by 4, special attack of allies by 4 if you do want a little bit of support, maxing out Eriott's special attack, for example, to max out her brain power. It's not bad. Increasing special moves next of allies by 2, a little bit of extra damage, and lowering his speed by 2. I mean, that could be bad, but there's a lot of speed supports, and it's not too big of a deal, I would say. But just obviously don't let it overwhelm you either, so there could be some issues there. Hilbert's kit at 1 to 5 is fine. Nothing crazy. Like Powder Snow's for gauge, Icy Winds for damage, a little bit of it anyway, plus speed debuffs, and also Toxic as well for some poisoning, which could do some chip damage over time. Input could be good for like Toxic Stalling, I guess. But for the most part, nothing super crazy in his kit for sure at 1 out of 5. Hilda, more of the same mostly, but also she does have healing with synthesis, like on-demand healing. It's really good. Razor Leaf for AoE stuff, which is supposed to give her debuffs for defense debuffs. If you do pair her with Datamine, I don't think it matters too much, but you could max out those defensive debuffs, right? Grassy Glide doesn't consume gauge, and Grassy Terrain, obviously, it's got decent power. It's a single target move, so it doesn't have that split effect of Icy Wind where it gets reduced even further. She was able to reduce Sync Countdown again, raise her crit by 3, ally attack by 2, physical moves next of allies by 2, and lowers her speed by 2 again. So a little bit of physical support here in the attack form and the physical moves next. That's very nice. Could be good for like someone like Signature Erica if you want to partner them up. Not a bad idea. And then more of the same for the most part. Condition nullification, preventing status conditions, flinch, confusion, and trap under grassy terrain could be helpful depending on what stages you're fighting. Some stages do like to do that a lot, so again, not bad. Again, like I'm thinking, you know, fighting tornadoes or something, you don't want to be hit by those constant confusions. That could be helpful. And she's not weak to flying, so it's nice. Weak to fire though, so be careful of that heat wave. But healing, right? Anyway, so yeah, not too horrible of a kit either, but again, just nothing super absurd. Calem, he's got Dazzling Gleam, Charm, and Moonblast. Charm for attack debuffs. He does also have Stupefying Strike for special defense debuffs, so he does have 2 instances of debuffing here. Special defense and attack, not too shabby. Stat debuff immunity for the team under Fairy Zone. A lot of stages can spam debuffs as well, so that's nice. And Fairy Kingdom for Fairy Zone, similar to the other 2 setting Grassy Terrain and Ice Zone. He's able to reduce countdown by 1, raise special attack by 4, raise crit of all allies by 2. Him not being able to max out his crit's a little bit annoying, but not too shabby. And then increase sync move next of all allies by 4 and lowering his speed by 2. Again, same problem with all those speed debuffs. It affects Hilda the least since she's got free moves next, right? And also, if you want to pair her with like Datamine, he's also got free moves next, and granted, your support's probably going to be like Senior City's Roller or something anyway, so gauge doesn't really matter to on that team. But yeah, and again, sync move up next for Calem being able to help. That's pretty good, honestly, especially if you want to pair him up with someone else who has a lot, like Signature Wall or someone who can like extend Fairy Zone. Again, Signature Wall is a really good example of that. Extend that Fairy Zone from him, and then also power up his sync move, which is one of the best. It's like fairy sync moves in the game. It's pretty good. Or he's like one of the best fairy nukers in the game. Still, point being, really solid effect. And again, all of these characters are also the tech support EX role, so do consider that they do have at least value. At the very least, again, value of using their sync move once, where you can use it, get that field effect, and even if it's not extended, you're still getting a little bit of usage out of it. And even if it is extended, then obviously there's a lot of good usability out of that because you're getting it by your next sync move for whatever other character. Like Hilbert's got Eriott to abuse that. Hilda's got Signature City's Arola. Do you extend Grassy Terrain, or is it just on your sync move? Yeah, she's got Grassy Terrain extension through, so Greta is able to extend Grassy Terrain. I'm pretty sure, I can't think of who the character is now, I just lost it. Dahlia, that right. Dahlia, I think, extends Grassy Terrain, so there's quite a few Grassy Terrain extenders that you compare with Hilda, and then Calem, Fairy Zone extender, you've got Signature Wally, right? I don't remember any more off the top of my head immediately. They might not exist, I'm not sure. Signature Mina, right? Signature Mina, so pretty decent partners to be able to pair up with all these characters to extend their different zones and get good usage out of their support EX rolls if you do want to invest in them. But I want to look at them with dupes, because they all are pretty good with dupes. Hilbert with max dupes, again, is a very strong debuffer. Stupefying Strike 9, Noxious Hit 9. He's got himself the 2 sets of debuffs already in his passives. Those are very solid debuffs. You're debuffing offenses, you're debuffing defenses, debuffing special attack again, and you're debuffing speed. That's 4 separate stats you can debuff with Hilbert, AoE especially because of the Powder Snow and Icy Wind, and also again, chip damage over time with Toxic. He's also got a good nuke with Devastation. Being able to debuff special attack as effectively as he does gives him a better sync nuke. He's got a good offensive stat as well. Again, over 500 with full investment. There we go. Over 500 special attack with full investment. That gives him an actually good usable nuke, which you can combine with the fact he's able to set Ice Zone every single sync move, combine that with Eriott's extension, and this is a character that's got a pretty good nuke, but also really good utility of maintaining Ice Zone effectively infinitely for as long as you're able to use his sync move for. And again, even if you can't use the sync move, you've got Eriott to back you up with 2 more instances of the move with her trainer move, right? Which is strong. Though consider, of course, in Eriott's case, maybe you want that hail, so sometimes you may need it, right? Either way, whatever. Other than that, Toxic Freebie 4 for 3 moves next. This helps with the fact that he's got, speed debuffs on himself, so the gauge is nice, but frankly, I don't know how often this will end up being needed. In a setup where you've got like an actually decent support, right? This is probably not going to be necessary, but I could definitely see some good usability in this in like the Legendary Gauntlet or something, where you might want to be able to use Icy Wind more for just damage purposes or speed debuffs or something like that, and just not have to worry too much about the gauge. Potent Toxin, increasing damage taken from poison. Training with NPR could be reminder you're going to be dealing your speed a lot this way. Running Fast Track's not too bad, but still. But you'll also be getting special defense buffs, special attack buffs, sync countdown, special moves next. So there's a pretty good give and take there with the train move NPR. Sadly, he does not buff his own crit, but again, running relevant support, and you're pretty good on that front. He does have Eagle Eye 9 as well, so just if you want to forego running the support, you got Eagle Eye 9, you can buff his crit that way. Very, very effective way of doing that. Overpower for a multiplier if you do want to, not do completely pretty much piss poor damage with Icy Wind. Overpower is there to save you. And again, this is one tile I really like. Recovering HP in Ice Zone, and the fact that his Ice Zone is effectively infinite. Combine that with the support that can apply gradual healing, especially like the top tier variety, like Champion Blue, or like Arcsuit Steven, who has Team Trash Tank, right? Give these characters these big gradual AoE healing abilities, and the team's recovering a lot of HP pretty much per turn just for these characters taking actions, and that's really, really useful. So we do love to see those ticks of healing per turn nodes. Very strong, or can be very strong anyway. For the most part, that's Hilbert's kit entirely. Again, I'm not going to say, I recommend you go for this character or this banner or whatever, but, just trying to, actually look at how good the character is in its own scope. It's pretty decent. These debuffs are nice. The support, not necessarily the support, but, the Ice Zone support is pretty nice with it being potentially infinite when paired with a character like Eriott. And then having a good nuke on top of that to actually maintain that zone does help it out quite a lot. And he's got a few other abilities, like his special moves next support and his self-sufficiency with Eagle Eye and the train to move and all of that good stuff. Not a bad character, for sure. Looking at Hilda, Hilda benefits similarly. Obviously, she's got Master, for one, Synthesis, Master Healer, and NPR. Those are really, really strong tiles in their own right. You've got effectively infinite healing for as long as you can get that NPR. That's helpful. Status move, physical moves up next. If you want to be able to use some pretty strong grassy glides after using your Synthesis, then there you go. There's an option for you. Blunting Strike 9, debuffing enemy attack. Relentless for another node. Similar to Hilbert, these characters have these same nodes. Relentless plus innate Relentless, 200% in multipliers. That sets the grassy terrain. That can extend the grassy terrain. It gives her sync move legitimate value. Also, I want you to consider that these characters' stats are not bad in any capacity. 450 attack's pretty good. Her defensive stats are pretty good with the support EX roll. HP's fine, speed's fine, whatever. Speed doesn't even really matter because she's got grassy glide, right? Hilbert, similarly, over 500 special attack. Really solid stats. 281 special defense is pretty good for a character that's not meant to be taking an attack, right? Or usually. So these are pretty solid stats for the most part. Again, good gauntlet stats to be able to take hits in those game modes. Pretty solid stats for being able to have decent survivability in ultimate battles or just harder hitting game modes in general, right? That's very, very solid. Also consider how she gets gradual healing in Grassy Terrain because she's a grass type. That's also really good too. Other than that, she gets Empowering Growth 5 for powering up moves in grassy terrain, right next to Blunting Strike if you do want those attack debuffs. It's nice. Verdant Recovery, this gives you 2 ticks of healing in grassy terrain. I think that alone is also going to be really, really strong. Getting the healing under grassy terrain plus the double healing because of this tile here, that's 14% healing or something per turn, and then to come by that on top with the Synthesis, which not only is already going to be healing 70% health with Master Healer, I think, or something like that. But you're getting even more ticks of it under Verdant Recovery and under the natural grassy terrain. That's 80 to 90% healing just off of one use of Synthesis, which is already really funny. And again, that might enable you to forego getting this Master Healer in general because you're already going to be able to heal so much off of just having it being grassy terrain. It's really good. Opponent defense down, debuffing enemy defense on the opponent. This is pretty good for enabling her nuke faster if you do find it valuable. Could be. Just depends how you really want to run it, honestly. Fear's Entry 2. Don't think there's 2. Well, this could be pretty good. I mean, well, just bring a relevant support and you don't really have to. But for self-sufficiency purposes, it's not terrible. Trim of NPR is probably just better to go for, though, frankly. And that's most of her kit. So she's got similarly good stuff as Hilbert. It's just her stuff is AoE with Reave Relief, but I think most of the time you're going to want to use Grassy Glide anyway, simply for the gauge purposes plus damage. I think that'd be helpful. But she's got good sustainability for herself. She foregoes, her debuff pressure, I guess, which is still good with defense and attack, as well as, chip damage over time with Hilbert's Toxic or whatever, for very, very, very good on-demand healing, and that's a very, very good trade-off. We'll say that, right? So that's awesome. Very, very solid kit for, all-encompassing character, being able to set a terrain, do some damage, have a good nuke, and take a hit, right? Or take hits, frankly. And then Calem as well. I think Calem, in my opinion, is the worst of the three, but still not bad, honestly. I still think he's pretty decent for what he's able to do. We already went over his base kit. He gets Stupefying Strike, Disenchanting Strike, and opponent attack down. He's able to debuff attack and what is it again? Special defense? Yeah, special defense with his moves already, but the fact that he's got these tiles here makes it faster, being able to debuff attack and special defense faster. And then Disenchanting Strike, debuffing special attack there, so he's got that on top of Moonblast as well, so that's nice, especially if you pick up on the roll on Moonblast and you got double debuffs. So I guess Calem likes to focus on having 3 debuffs, which is nice. It's more than Hilda, but also the fact that he can do them all multiple times, because he can debuff enemy attack easily with Charm and the tile, he can debuff special defense twice with Stupefying Strike, and he can debuff special attack up to twice with Moonblast plus the Disenchanting Strike. Pretty good. Pecking order and innate, what's it called? Think about it. Smarty Pants, that's what it's called. Smarty Pants plus Pecking Order, same amount of nuking multipliers as the other characters. Similarly good offensive stats, 486 special attack is nice. Similarly good defensive stats, 250 plus defense, 268 special defense, 832 health. You know, these are pretty solid stats all across the board. Similar again to Hilbert and to Hilda, so that is good. He's got Sync Move Team HP Recovery 1, 20% HP Recovery for the whole team, Synchro Healing. It's not the best healing in the world, but it is also targeting all allies, and it is on every sync move, which already again has decent value because of the fact you can set the fairy zone and extend it. So that is really solid there. Being able to get that 20% healing on top of all of that is nice, again, for team sustainability and sustainability for himself. And PR for the trainer move, again, if you want those sync move up next, which is directly powering up that good sync nuker, like against Signature Wally or himself as well. And he can also be able to buff attack and special attack and crit for himself and the team in terms of just the crit, but still. And again, sync acceleration as well. Charm Topher as well. Good gauge management. Combine that with his speed debuffs, and the fact that he's got this is really, really good. You can effectively spam Charm. Not in a damage challenge setting where it's actually effective, but if you really need the gauge, then Charm can really back you up there. And then again, similar notes here with the Whimsical Power, Adrenaline, and Whimsical Acceleration as most of the other characters. Whimsical Power under the Moonblast isn't too bad, honestly. Then Sharp Entry 1 if you want to max out his crit without having to go for a Trainer Movement Power or something like that. So, kit quality of these characters is not too shabby. I mean, again, I don't really think I would recommend summoning on this banner for most people, especially if you want to try and just go for one character at a certain level of investment. Like if you just want, in my case, Hilbert at 3 out of 5, then I've still got to go through potentially getting Hilda and Calem over him for 1, right? That's definitely not something that's going to be super enticing to go for, but at the very least, they're all pretty solid, so that's nice for sure. I do honestly think that the kit quality of these characters is, I mean, up to par. At the very least, it's up to par. I'm okay with this, honestly, especially with how versatile a lot of the modern game modes are, and how a lot of these game modes can potentially appreciate these characters as like debuffing ability, or their ability to set a zone infinitely and have it extended with their good partners, or like the healing that they can apply to themselves or the whole team without having to be like a support character. Honestly, like with how versatile a lot of teams are in different game modes, like Ultimate Battle, even Ultimate Battles, right? Like if you want to, there's a lot of teams that are super, I'm not gonna say crazy, but like you can take teams that have a lot of good offensive debuffing ability, defensive buffing ability, and a lot of just general healing, and you can effectively stall out of a lot of Ultimate Battles, for example. Like, go look at the charts and try and find some similar teams to that. Like, look at Arcsuit Steve and Airy and whatever the other fucking support was. Mostly just taking care of a lot of stages, like Argenta gets cleared by it. Even other stages, like I think Evelyn gets cleared by it. It's nuts. It really is nuts how a lot of these teams can work with, you know, certain glue characters that can make these characters look a lot stronger, or actually be a lot stronger and make their ability shine a lot more. So wouldn't be too quick to count out a lot of these variety characters, even if they don't look like they're super good or whatever. That's just my thoughts, so do whatever you want. I don't really care too much, and that's my thoughts again for these new variety sync pairs that are releasing for Eevee Day. Not too bad. I'm going to be summoning just because I want Hilbert and Glaceon, but I would not mind any copies of Calem or Hilda along the way, as long as it doesn't take me too many just to get... Boy, I'm going to cry. Yeah, whatever. I'll see you later. Hope you all enjoy. Good luck on your summons, good luck on your skipping, and happy Eevee Day. Peace.